I want to talk about the one abstention, the one abstaining vote in the FDA's discussion of vaccinating EUA, Pfizer, kids 5 to 11. This is Michael Kurilla. He is the director of the NCATs at the NIH, and he has a very thoughtful statement that he put out yesterday that simply isn't being covered by many news outlets, I say, talking about this story. So I just wanted to highlight what he said and a few thoughts on the matter. So this is what Michael Kurilla says, why he abstained, why he didn't vote. He's a 1701. He's the one. So this is what he says. So the basis of my abstention was the specific wording of the question to be voted on and the following considerations. The longest follow-up for a subset of the trial subjects was only 3 months. Immunogenicity and efficacy was assessed at 2 months post-second dose. Number 2, children already demonstrate asymptomatic COVID infections about 50% of the time, and this increases as the age falls. Since the trial endpoint only evaluated symptomatic disease, it likely overestimated overall infection, he puts in quotes, protection. This is a very astute point that Michael Kurilla is making, which is that the endpoint of the study is just the tip of the SARS-CoV-2 replication iceberg, and that is the symptomatic portion of it. And by not capturing the bottom of the iceberg, you're missing a lot of the PCR carriage, which may actually result in a diminished vaccine efficacy or effect size of the vaccination. That's what he speculates. I think it's quite an interesting point he's making. The next point. This is Michael Kurilla. About 20% of the subjects in the trial had evidence, serological or PCR positivity, of past COVID infection, and none of these subjects in either the vaccine or placebo arms experienced reinfection. That's a really important point, and that's the point that's been made over and over again since 2020, which is that you can talk about antibody titers all you want, but if you talk about the entity in and of itself, which is clinical reinfection, people who have recovered from primary infection have a very, 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 very low rate of reinfection, of symptomatic reinfection. The next point Michael Kurilla says, back to Michael Kurilla, CDC presented data to suggest that at least 40% of children aged 5 to 11 have experienced a prior COVID infection. This is an important bullet point he puts out there, and he, I think in his spoken remarks, called this a floor and not a ceiling, and good seroprevalence will better clarify that estimate. But children who have already been exposed and recovered, I think all of the advisors suggest that the potential benefits have got to be very small and the potential risks are likely the same and still present. And so that balance becomes very tenuous. And I would have been very curious if they put that to its own independent vote. Next point, Michael Kurilla. Real-world evidence involving adults suggests that the 3-week dosing interval is suboptimal in terms of durability and likely to be similar in children, leading to waning immunity in 4 to 6 months. This is another really important point he's making, which is we do know from a number of arms of data that if you spread those doses further apart, you're going to get more durable antibody titers, more durable immunity in the long haul. And that's an important point because I think he's suggesting that there might be room for optimization before we move forward with this blanket EUA. The final point he makes. Because the Pfizer vaccine offers protection against serious disease even after antibody titers have waned, there is some other basis for immunity. But at the lower dose in children, there is no expectation that those same immune processes will behave similarly to the higher adult dose. That's another excellent point. You don't know. You just don't know. And I think that's what he's trying to say. And so his final comment, Michael Kurilla, while there are clearly high-risk groups within the 5 to 11 age group for which this vaccine would significantly reduce serious disease, I do not expect protection from infection to last more than a few months, and this may negatively impact public perception of vaccines. These are very good points, and I wish the media would do a whole story just on these points and on other points that were raised in the dialogue, because it is important for people who participate in the shared decision-making process to hear these kinds of points. And I think he's making another astute point, which is that if parents who feel as if this is two and done end up in a pattern where they're committing themselves to booster and additional vaccine down the road, I think that may affect their public perception of vaccination, and it may have consequences beyond the immediate FDA action. So these aren't my opinions. This is, of course, Michael Kurilla. He is a member of the FDA Advisory Committee. He said many of these things in the panel, but some of these things, I think, when I heard him say it, I heard him a little bit differently, but I think he's articulated nicely in this statement. This is a statement that I'm going to post right here, and it's being tweeted out by Emily Kopp, a reporter. And so I think it's an important part of this dialogue that we need to talk about more. So, you know what to do. Like this video, like, subscribe, comment, leave a message below. Until next time.